What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and I am back like I never left. I enjoyed my vacation. Shout out to all of you all who are following me on social media, because you all know what I've been up to the past few days. But I had a fun trip, had a lot of fun at MegaCon down in Orlando, posted a lot of pictures and stuff on Instagram and Twitter and what have you. So if you want to keep up with me and what I'm doing, you could always follow me over there. But you know, while I was gone, I got asked a few times, what do I do? And you know, it's always weird telling people what I do, because what I do isn't, the average thing that average people do. But I got wrapped up in a couple of conversations about East Palestine, Ohio, while telling people that I have a YouTube channel and I've been covering this story. And one person said something to me that really stuck out to me, but it really was a perfect example as to how a lot of people think these days. And I see it online as well. So the person who I talked to is definitely not the only person who thinks this way. But he said something to me along the lines of, oh, things are really getting serious out in East Palestine. CDC workers are getting sick now. And I'm like, yeah, that is serious. But then when I really thought about it, and, as you all think about it right now, what's the problem with that statement? The problem with that statement to me is that people now want to say this situation is serious now because officials are getting sick. The situation in East Palestine, Ohio was serious from day one. It was serious when the people of the town were getting sick. It was serious when the railroad workers who were out there cleaning up were getting sick. But now that CDC officials are getting sick, now people view it as being more valid. As if the common people of East Palestine, Ohio, and their stories weren't valid enough. They weren't credible enough. Now that we have CDC agents getting sick, oh, now we know it's serious. And I don't fault the guy for saying that at all. And I understand that mentality, because it's a mentality that has been baked into us since birth. And it's something that I think we all have to kind of get over. Thinking that these officials and agents, CDC, like they're different than us. No, they're just people with different credentials who half the time don't know what they're talking about. And even when they do know what they're talking about, they will lie to your face to fit whatever agenda they have. So I don't care if you're the smartest person in the world and you know more about chemical outbreaks than anyone in the world. If you don't tell people the truth and you tell people lies in order to line your pockets, then, does that make you a genius? Does that make you a good person? That makes you less credible than anyone else. Which is my problem with a lot of these professionals and stuff these days. I view these experts as less credible than the common person walking on the streets, because I know the common person walking on the streets doesn't have an agenda, and I know most of these experts and officials do. Or they're bought and paid for by people who have agendas of their own. So I think we need to move away from that. But if that's what it takes, if it takes CDC agents and stuff like that getting sick for people to realize, oh, there really is a problem in East Palestine, Ohio, then so be it. Now, I know some people will hear this news and be like, it's karma. Yeah, good on them. The CDC's been lying this whole time. I understand why people may feel that way, but I try not to hold the business practices of a lot of these organizations against like the ground level grunt workers who really are just there. They're just trying to feed their families. And a lot of the stuff that goes on is well above their pay grade. But it is what it is. And the fact remains that CDC workers have been getting sick. And they're reporting the same exact symptoms as the residents of East Palestine, Ohio. So without further ado, let's hop into this article, get a better understanding of what's going on here, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts. 7 CDC workers fell ill investigating train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. In the days following the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, a group of investigators fell ill while looking into the chemical exposure of residents. 15 investigators from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry were wrapping up their probe of chemical exposure Monday in the East Palestine area. But just a few weeks ago, 7 of those investigators themselves may have experienced exactly what they were looking into, the agency confirmed to the Columbus Dispatch. On March 6th, 7 investigators reported feeling sick and said they experienced a sore throat, headache, coughing, and nausea, according to the CDC. The symptoms are consistent with what some residents and responders have reported in surveys the CDC has been conducting in and around the town that sits on the edge of Ohio and Pennsylvania border. Symptoms resolved for most of the investigators the same afternoon they first noticed them, and everyone resumed work on survey data collection within a day, according to the CDC. The investigators who fell ill have not reported ongoing health effects. Now, I want to pause right there, because that is kind of weird to me. So they're saying these CDC agents fell ill, and they reported these symptoms, but then they magically felt better the next day, and they went back to work. Yeah, probably forced to go back to work. I'm just saying, like, if I'm working at a site with all these toxic chemicals and I fall ill, I'm usually not going back to work the next day. I feel like this is all for optics, and they're no longer reporting any of the symptoms. I'm sorry, I find that really odd, and I don't know if that's true. It could be. This is what they're saying. Take their word for it if you want. I'm not so ready to take their word for it. And my main question is, why are we hearing about this now? This happened March 3rd. They knew about this March 3rd, and they chose to roll this news out a month later. And ladies and gentlemen, we know how the news works. Usually, you want to be the first to release a news story. They're rolling this stuff out late because they know the longer they push this stuff off, the longer they have to deal with the issue, the longer they have for some of these chemicals maybe to work their way out of town. You know what I mean? So I feel like this is something that's time sensitive. If you got CDC agents on the scene falling ill on March 3rd, you should report that on March 3rd so everyone could act accordingly. But no, you report this on April 3rd, well, a month after this went down. And, by now, everyone's been sitting in this stuff for a month. And you're claiming that all of these workers who mysteriously fell ill suddenly felt better in time for work the next day and never suffered a problem again. I wonder if they had a firm talking to. Probably realized that their future was in jeopardy, so they shut their mouths and went back to work. Or they were quietly escorted away from the job site, and they shipped other people in to resume the work. That's what I think happened, but hey, that's just my speculations. News of the illnesses, which showed up a little more than a month after the derailment, was first reported by CNN. The CDC's assessment of chemical exposure was set to end Monday in East Palestine, according to the agency. As of Thursday, 704 community residents completed surveys on potential chemical exposure. Of those, 532 surveys were conducted in Ohio, and 172 surveys were completed in Pennsylvania. First responders completed 318 surveys, according to the CDC. Over the next couple of months, CDC and ATSDR will work with the health departments to analyze data and share results, a CDC spokesperson said via email. EPA teams remain on the ground to support response efforts. CDC and ATSDR will continue to respond to requests for remote technical assistance for as long as needed. The derailment, which has received national attention, occurred February 3rd, when an eastbound Norfolk Southern freight train came off the tracks in East Palestine, Ohio. So here's my thing, and this has been my thing since day one, and this is my thing when it comes to stories like this in general. It's always, we have to wait for the testing and the testing results. And dude, the people are baking in this stuff in East Palestine, Ohio. And I mean, what happens? You get a test result 2 months from now that says, it turns out it wasn't safe to live here. The people have been living there this entire time. Someone needs to make a decision. Something needs to happen here. All of this testing, we're waiting on results for this and that. All they're doing, in my opinion, they're just prolonging this situation. Because let's be honest. You wait 3 months for some test results. You get the test results back, right? And they say, hey, there's all these chemicals here. It's totally not safe to live here. Then what? You've been living here for 4 months waiting on the test results. The damage has pretty much been done. I'm sure more damage could be done, but damn, you've sustained a lot of damage in those months that you were waiting on these test results. And then if the test results come back and say, hey, everything's fine, it's like, I don't know if I trust test results that come out 6 months after you claimed you tested something. So, I mean, it's such a confusing situation out there. And I would prefer action now as opposed to action after test results come in. I think that it's like one of those situations where you should treat it as worst case scenario until you find out otherwise. You know what I mean? Because the effects can be devastating. It's like you smell smoke and see smoke in your house. Do you wait until the flames engulf you to do something about it? You know what I mean? That I feel like it's people sitting inside of a house that's burning down, waiting on the flame to catch their room before they realize, hey, I need to get the heck out. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a good analogy, but I think you all catch my drift here. I think these type of situations, you should treat them as if it's worst case scenario. As if this town, or at least close proximity around this area, is inhabitable for now. Until we find out otherwise, it's inhabitable. But that's not what they do. They let you sit there. They let you bake and bask in these chemicals while they do their test and they run their test, and they lie to you and tell you everything's fine, everything's okay, the water is great, the air is great. Meanwhile, you go throw a rock in the lake outside and you see a freaking rainbow. You take a sip of water and you feel like crap for 2 weeks. I mean, let's be honest here. All they're doing is prolonging this stuff, and by the time you get answers, guess what? You've been sitting here in East Palestine for 5-6 years with all of these chemicals, so by the time you know the truth about what's going on, it's already too late, and you might as well just stay and shut up and go about your life. That is what is happening here, folks, in my opinion. Now, if you think otherwise, Feel free to let me know what you think is happening down in the comments below. But I think what they're doing is they're kicking the can down the road over and over. All right, oh yeah, we got to test this, kick the can. Oh yeah, the dioxin, kick the can. And it's just they're kicking the can down the road and down the road and down the road until all forms of media stop talking about it. Until even I have to move on and talk about other things. They're just going to kick the can down the road and down the road until everything is forgotten and the people of this town have just kind of, by instinct had to just go about life as usual because, you can't just put things on pause forever. And they know that. But anyways, now, apparently, some people are starting to take this situation a tad bit more seriously because now the CDC is sick. Now the CDC agents are getting sick. What did you think was going to happen? And it shows you the mentality of people. It's almost like they place other people on certain pedestals as if they're God-like creatures just because they have credentials or a name badge or they work for a certain company. If the people of East Palestine, Ohio can get sick from these chemicals, so can the journalists that are traveling in town, so can the workers who are cleaning up the area, so can Pete Buttigieg and all of these other people coming in town. If these chemicals can affect the people of East Palestine, Ohio, they can affect anyone, including the CDC workers. So this is not some, oh my God, mind-blowing moment. This is the obvious outcome. It's only that people view the CDC workers as if they're on a different level than the people of East Palestine, Ohio. So now they're willing to take the situation more seriously than they did before, as if these people were impenetrable to these chemicals. But they all eat, bleed, crap, just like we do. Stop putting these people on a pedestal. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.